Right into it. So, as I mentioned tonight, Rihanna is slated to perform at the halftime of the Super Bowl, an event that has almost become as important as the game, right?
Hmm.
Earlier this week, however, we found out that she will not be getting paid for her performance at at the Super Bowl, as well as others before her also have not been paid to perform at the halftime show. So, Sticks, getting right into it. What's your thoughts on the NFL not paying their halftime performers?
So when we were talking about doing this topic to begin the week, right? Well, we were talking about it last week or over the weekend. I was like, bro, ain't no way Super Bowl ain't been paying these folks. Ain't no way. Like that's it. Just sound to me. It just sound dumb. Like I said, bro, you lying. Like she getting paid. Like you know what I'm saying. But then the more you do the research, so it begins to get a little complex, right? So this is gonna be her first pop out since really her. She's been in the hiatus for the last 7 years. She ain't did nothing since 2016 when she dropped that anti art album, right?
Hmm. Music wise, she
So
hasn't done anything.
music wise,
Yeah.
right? But she been all over the place. You know, of course, she just had a kid with ASAP. You know, what I'm saying she been doing her Fenty beauty brand.
Hmm.
She's been in the public eye. You know, what I'm saying, but she hasn't done anything performance wise and music wise since 2016. So this is gonna be her first real pop out for real. So it's like the more you think about it, it's like okay, I can kind of understand because I think the NFL is just giving these folks a platform to promote their brands and their music and the things they got going on. So, but to me, it's like these people are putting on a show at your event.
Hmm.
So why wouldn't you give these people this money? But the residual that they get from these performances, especially, it's supposed to be like almost 200 million people watching this the Super Bowl this year.
Hmm.
So you're going to get those eyes on you regardless. And then shoot, honestly, most people only watch the Super Bowl for the halftime show anyway. So it's probably going to be 192 people watching the game. But then once the halftime come on, it's probably going to be over 200 million people watching.
Right.
So like probably 300 million people watching just to watch the performances. So it's like you get these 300 million eyes on you to be able to promote anything that you got going on. People might end up going and downloading your music from that, buying her beauty line from that, just kind of just going to follow her on social media from that. So it's like I can kind of see where they're coming from, but it's still, to me, it's still seem kind of weird. What you think?
I think it's crazy.
I think it's
Um,
crazy too, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
First off, the reason why I think it's crazy is I would like to think I am up to date on most of the things that happen within the sports world. Not as much as I used to be, but for the
Right.
most part, yeah. Right.
Likewise.
But this is the first time I ever heard about Super Bowl halftime performers not being paid for the Super Bowl, to
Hmm.
perform at the Super Bowl. And then what's even crazier is that some of them come out of pocket
I
to
was
help
about to say that. Yeah.
pay for the Super Bowl, for their Super Bowl performance. I mean, since 1993, there has been a Super Bowl performance. Michael Jackson was the first person to actually do the Super Bowl halftime show in the way that it is now, right? Um,
Hmm.
and since then, the Super Bowl has made sure that they've had somebody to, to the standard of Michael Jackson, because that Super Bowl performance was pretty amazing. He was
It
popping
was.
out all over the stadium and whatnot, right?
It was
Um,
crazy.
and so to think Michael Jackson doing all of that stuff and he didn't get paid for his performance, and then everybody else, Lady Gaga falling from the roof of the Houston, that was Houston, right?
Hmm.
Whatever that Super Bowl was, she didn't get paid for that. Beyonce doing the performance she did, she didn't get paid for that. It's just crazy to think about that. But like you mentioned, when you sit back and you think about why the NFL can get away with doing this, and you start to realize, okay, I can understand why maybe they don't pay
Hmm.
the performers at halftime, because you know again, like you mentioned, they get the residuals from the kickbacks of the streaming platforms. Even though we know streaming doesn't pay artists that well,
Hmm.
they do see an increase of their music being streamed on those different platforms, which is a check of some sort where the few or as much as it is, they see their tours, if they're on tour, they see those start to fill out more. People like the Beyonces of the world, the Taylor
Hmm.
Swifts. Rihanna's about to go on tour. I think she said those tickets and those concerts was sold out before they even went on sale.
for
But for
sure.
somebody that is coming back, maybe like a Mary J. Blige, no shade to her, but she's a little bit older. She's not out there like that. She's taking more
Hmm.
interest in her acting career than her music career right now. But she performed last year, and she saw increases in the attendance of her concerts and tour last year, as well as her streaming platform, her streaming services, or the music on the streaming services. They increased like 99 999%. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, for her to perform and stuff like that at the Super Bowl, it's great. But to just really just sit and think the Super Bowl is not paying you to perform is outrageous. And you might have to come out of pocket to have the production the way you want it. It's just crazy to think
It's just
about.
it is crazy to think about because I was looking at a number. Remember the weekend put on that performance in 2021. His performance was
Yep.
actually pretty fire too.
Yeah.
He spent $7 million
Yep.
to fund his own Super Bowl perform halftime show.
Yep.
Like to have all the mirrors that he had when he was doing his performance, and then all like they have to fund all of this stuff on their own.
Right.
But the crazy thing is that like you said, his uptick in his ticket sales and his streaming platforms after that Super Bowl performance went up almost 500% too. I'm looking at 491%
Yep.
increase in his performance. So it's like you're gonna that 7 million that he spent, he's gonna get right back. You
Exactly.
know what I'm saying? So it's like, but it's just weird. Like the Super Bowl is a multi-billion-dollar company,
Hmm.
and the Super Bowl just
No,
off of
the
the
NFL. The NFL
I
is
mean,
a
that's what
multi-billionaire.
the
Yeah,
NFL
yeah,
is what I'm
yeah,
going to say.
yeah,
NFL is a
yeah,
multi-billion-dollar company. The Super Bowl itself is going to bring them money as far as ticket sales, as far as viewers, the of
the
course
ads, the TV ads.
the ads, the apparel, the merch that they're going to sell just for the Super Bowl. Like
Yep.
the NFL is going to get paid tenfold off of this. So why wouldn't you take some of those multi-billions and maybe even just even if the performers have to help fund the actual like set and the performances themselves, if you're not gonna pay them, at least set up, at least pay for the setup.
So
Don't
they
make
so yeah, great. And that's a
like
great point.
you
So
give them the stage, but everything else they got to come out of pocket for. But go ahead, I'm
yeah,
listening. What you say?
so the thing that you were about to say, or the thing that you said, is at least give the people that set up the stage and stuff like that. So the NFL actually does pay for that, or
Hmm.
the sponsor of the halftime show pays for that. So
Hmm.
I read, it was in the Forbes article that the NFL or whoever is sponsored the halftime show pays up to $13 million for
Okay.
that particular performance, and that goes not to the performer themselves, but it goes to the people that it's usually around 3,000 or so people that help set up the stage, that help move all the moving parts of the halftime show, setting
Right.
the stage up, getting all the equipment in place,
The
the
pyrotechnics
dancers,
and all
the
that. Yeah.
pyrotechnics, all that is what that money goes to. But the actual performer, if they want to add something else into it to get the performance how they want it, so it can get that pop and that bang and have people talking about their performance for years to come, they have to come out with the additional money,
Yeah.
in order to get that vision. But so that they do pay for the halftime show, they just don't pay the
The
performers,
actual performer
the
themselves.
actual performers. Yeah. So it's just
I guess that makes sense.
yeah, it's just weird all around, man. Because you think about today's, in today's age, everybody's talking about either having equity in something or at
Hmm.
least getting a good enough check in order to say that this is what I did. Everything's about money these days, especially with the
Hmm.
the climate that we are as far as an economy,
Right.
and worried about being laid off, stuff like that. So you would think in the realm of doing good business, money is being exchanged from for the services rendered by the performer, but apparently that's not the case. And like you said, for good reason, is because of all of the residuals that come back, to the performer at the end or on the back end. It's a
Hmm.
mutually beneficial agreement between the two. The NFL gets their performance at halftime
Hmm.
from maybe a list celebrity or A-list performer, artist, and
Right.
then the artist, because they will have an average of 100 plus million viewers watching their halftime show, they'll get all of that kickback towards the end or in the
For
back
sure.
end.
So that bears the question that I came up with this because I've never seen our boy J. Cole do a Super Bowl halftime show, right?
Well, okay, you probably won't, but
I'm sure we won't. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
does that bear the question as to why he hasn't? Because I was reading something because I was thinking when I was doing my research, I was like, well, damn, I never seen our boy Jermaine do nothing. So let me look it up and see has he ever done one because I never remembered him doing one, and he
Mm-hmm.
hasn't. But he's historically almost every year ESPN throws a Super Bowl party outside of the actual event itself, and he's
Mm-hmm.
always there with Drake, Jay-Z, um, and a couple of other big names as well. He does that almost every single year, and they have to pay him for his attendance. At least
Okay.
ESPN does. They actually have him at that party to put on a performance for the people. So, do you think this would be smarter for the people like Rihanna and the people like your Lady Gagas and your Justin Timberlakes and all these people who have done the Super Bowl halftime show a couple of times now that aren't getting paid for it and have to come out of pocket to do the actual parties away from the event? Because I think that's a little bit smarter. I mean, J. Cole getting paid, and well, in his eyes, it might not be a lot, but $500,000 to do
Mm-hmm.
a Super Bowl party outside of the event itself. Would that be smarter for him to get that money to put on the show, or come out of pocket 7 mil to actually, fund the actual concert itself?
I think it depends on what type of celebrity or what type of artist is doing the performance.
True.
So, while we love J. Cole, he and in our eyes, he is an A-list performer artist.
Mm-hmm.
In the grand scheme of things, he's not that type of performer, right? He's not
Agreed.
a list performer. So I don't think he needs the money. I'm not saying he needs the money, but for somebody of his status, I think he would, if we're talking about what we know about the performers that do the halftime show, I think he would rather do the halftime show and get that kickback on the back end where he could potentially get more than $500,000 from performing at the Super Bowl, a halftime Super Bowl, rather than performing outside of the Super Bowl where only a select few of eyes, now nowhere near 100 million eyes, will see him. 100 million viewers' eyes will see him performing his catalog of songs. So to answer your question, I think it depends on the person. So if you're like a newer artist, you might not be thinking that far down the line as far as the kickback that you could get from being the halftime performer. You would probably take that outside gig from ESPN and those various media groups to be performing outside the Super Bowl. But as you become more tenured, and in the game, as they say, a little bit longer, you see the benefit of being the halftime performer that may potentially have to pay $7 million. Because Dr. Dre also mentioned he paid $7 million for his set last year.
Mm-hmm.
You may potentially have to pay $7 million, but after you perform, you'll probably get 25-30 million dollars from streaming platforms and concerts and
I mean,
whatever else you're involved in, as we'll see with Rihanna with Savage Fenty and what's the other one? She
I
got
forget.
Savage Fenty, yeah, whatever her lines of beauty and apparel are.
Yeah, but see, J. Cole is kind of like us though. He don't want to really be in the public eye like that. He actually pretty frugal himself. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So I don't think he much cares,
Hmm.
to be honest. And I bear to go ahead and say on record that I think they probably asked him before to do it,
Well, I
possibly.
mean, mm, I don't know.
I would see why they wouldn't. That's just
I
me.
don't. I just don't know.
But they do. But seeing the history of the halftime show, it's been these people who put on these extravagant performances, and
Hmm.
J. Cole is not that extravagant. Like needs the fire and wants to jump out of fucking holes in the floor and want to do all that. He's not that type of performer.
Right.
But as far as like the eyes that would be on the Super Bowl from his music and the people who would love him, I think he would draw just as much attention as a Rihanna would, as far as with
Yeah.
his music and his catalog and the type of the message that he portrays in his music. So me, honestly, I don't. I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna say he don't really give a fuck, but I think he benefits more from doing the parties as opposed to the halftime show. That's just me.
Yeah.
That's just me because I don't think
I,
just because of his demeanor, I just don't think he care.
you know him better than I do, but but I don't. I think he would rather go to the halftime. I think the opposite of what you said. I think he
Okay.
would rather be the halftime performer and get that kickback, from, you know, get that kickback after the Super Bowl rather than performing at the Super Bowl for those parties outside of the game in the halftime show and just getting a set $500,000 or whatever his asking price is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah,
he would rather be that person.
we're gonna have to ask him once we start having guests and get him on the show. We're gonna have to ask him that question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, for
for sure, for sure,
100%.
for
But
sure, for
I
sure.
just think, regardless of what this is and what we found, regardless of this, I can't talk today. It's still mind-boggling
It is.
that the NFL does not pay for their halftime performances. And my question is, how did they get enough power to do that?
Yeah,
Because
where they drawing all this from? They gotta have some
right,
high power generators in that motherfucker. I swear.
no, well, no, what I'm saying is how they get enough power as a corporation to
Oh,
say
that's what you're saying.
yeah, to say we're not going to pay you, but we want you to be a part of our. Because before Michael Jackson, as I mentioned, in 1993, they had college marching bands performing at halftime show, and
Hmm.
we know media is different than it was. It's different nowadays than it was back in the day. Everything has to be a spectacle, right? Um, and everything has money flowing into it when it comes to media and stuff like that. But how do you say, as a corporation, I don't care who the person is that's performing, we not paying you, but you
I,
gonna come and do this and do it to the best of your ability, and then also you might have to come out of pocket if you want it to look like this. That to me. How do you as a corp? That's crazy to me. I'm sorry. I mean,
I think it's the age of. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
it's cool. No, 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 no. It's cool. I'm just still trying to wrap my head around the
I think it's
NFL
the.
is just like that. Like, yo, I'm swinging this. You ain't getting no money.
Yeah, I'm big D around here, but nah.
You know what I'm saying?
But I think it's more so the age of it's like you said. It started. It's like you said, '93. Whenever MJ put on that great performance, there wasn't no social media. There wasn't no Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Wasn't none of that, right? But they
Right.
still made MJ the big star that he was, pay for his performance.
Well, they ain't make him. Let's
Well,
get
true.
that
He
correct.
well, true, 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 true.
We talking about Michael Jackson now.
Yeah, he wanted it. True. I agree. I agree. Let me back up. I apologize for my outvoice. I apologize.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
but
yeah.
but but it's like he had to pay for his performance. But I think now it's like the age of technology now, and everything flows to social media, and everything is on the internet. That the more eyes you can get on something, on a product, on a person, on some music, on whatever your product is, the more
Hmm.
eyes you can get on it, the more money, the more residual money in the future that you can make from it.
Yep.
So not too many people can perform in front of 300 million people,
You're right.
right? So if the Super Bowl, if the committee of the Super Bowl or the NFL, whoever, goes to Rihanna and says, "Listen, we going, what I'm saying, you've been out of the game for 7 years. You know what I'm saying? You still been
Mhm.
doing your thing. You got your Savage Fenty, you got your beauty line, you got your clothing line, you got all that, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But your last album was in 2016. You want to pop out, come do the Super Bowl, come do the Super Bowl, come do the halftime show. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And immediately, boom, you got 200 plus people, 200 plus million people looking at you.
Right.
You might be able to even promote like your next album that might be coming out. You can still
Mhm.
promote your beauty line. You can do all of that in the same breath of you performing, and people get to see you after the baby, and they probably put together a crazy pitch for it.
Right.
So it's like, but what I'm saying, just like the people back, what I'm saying, 30 years ago, you ain't getting no money. We're
Right.
gonna we're gonna get you, the setup and everything, what I'm saying. But if you want to do your own vision, you got to put in about 7 million, but you still gonna have that 300 million on you. And after today, your record sales gonna go up, your sales from your makeup gonna go up, your clothing gonna go up, everything gonna go up because you got 300 million people watching you.
Yeah.
So
And
I
but
think
so,
I think it's more so about perception than it is about the money itself, honestly. So that way
and,
you can build that residual.
And that's a good point. The last statement you just made is it's about the perception, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I would argue it was more beneficial for artists like Michael Jackson and before these streaming
Age.
wars came out,
Yeah.
because you had to actually go to a store to physically buy a copy of somebody's album back in
Mm-hmm.
the day,
Mm-hmm.
which you would get more points. Um, you would get more points for the sale, and which means
Mm-hmm.
more money in your pocket. Like I mentioned
Yep.
earlier, we know that the streaming services don't pay that
As
well.
much. Yep.
You get like a hundredth of a penny for every stream that you get. What type of shit is that? So
Mm-hmm.
like me performing at the halftime show, yeah, my streams might go up, but I could have a million streams and only get, now this is exaggeration, I don't know the exact numbers, but get like $700 for that. So
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that back in the day it did make more sense, but now it doesn't. But for somebody like Rihanna though, it may make it makes more sense for her because one, she's a billionaire, she doesn't really need the money as it is. But
Exactly.
not only is she going to have streams and tours or concert tours to fill, she also has an additional product that people can go buy, which is that beauty line and that lingerie
Mm-hmm.
set that she had, or lingerie company that she has.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an additional revenue that's going to go into her pocket other than just streaming. And so she has more pegs and cogs on the wheel than just music and streaming, which,
Right.
yeah. So
And,
I would
and
argue
like you
that
said,
it's a,
the more eyes that you get on something, especially through the streaming age, the more money you're gonna make in the long run just because of that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which is not a bad but it is still dumb weird that they're not paying these folk. It is weird as hell, but it's just like they
It's
had that power because they are the NFL. You know what I'm saying? Like I think
right.
people look at it as okay, these people are giving me a platform to promote myself, and
Yeah,
most people in these day and age now they have to promote themselves anyway, and it's on a smaller scale
right.
than the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? The Super Bowl is one of the biggest scales of the year that you can actually
Right.
get your brand out there. So, in opposed to doing it all on your own, that's gonna take a whole year. Do that shit in one day, get 300 million eyes on you. Your profit gonna go up crazy. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
I
saying?
mean,
So,
the Super Bowl Sunday. This I'll wrap it up with this. Super Bowl Sunday is like big business all around. Food companies benefit from it. You have all these different type of brands, whether it's a car brand, food, drink brand,
mhm,
clothing brands, they all benefit from it because they have ads at the Super Bowl and they all compete for what's the best, most funniest, most heartstring pulling commercial of the Super Bowl,
mhm.
and in turn that turns into dollars in their pockets. So I mean, yeah, I guess it's right. It is a
Super
win-win
big
for
business.
everybody. The Super Bowl can, you perform at the Super Bowl, you're gonna get some type of kickback,
Mhm,
and what type of kickback that is depends on how many streams of revenue or services or products you have out there that the
mhm.
consumers can say, oh yeah, they performed at the Super Bowl. Oh, they're a part of this. Oh, this is their music. Let me go consume that. So I mean, I guess
Mhm.
it's as I mentioned, it is a very mutually beneficial agreement on both parties. But it's still, like you said, it's still kind of strange that they don't
It
pay.
is big strange, big strange. But it's like I said, man, it's big business, and it's one of those complex situations where it's like you have to kind of really dig deep to find out exactly, what the thought process is, because you would have to ask somebody like Rihanna, like, why would you do that? Like, but
Yeah.
you can look from the outside looking in and say, this is why. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why we had today was a good time talking about this. But I know D-Lo said we was gonna wrap it up. Before we wrap it up, again, make sure you go and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you go to Apple Music, Spotify, all your major streaming platforms, and go ahead and download that as well. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the content.